Good morning, my friends. Welcome to my country farmhouse studio. It is Thursday morning and it is almost 9 o'clock and I am getting ready for a sewing day today with friends. We sew every Thursday. So I'm out here getting the coffee ready and I've made some brownies and I have a great episode to share with you. So let me get this started real quick because I want to have this good and hot. I've only had one cup this morning, so I'm ready for more. So I just washed up some cups here because Jim and I were out here last night until quite late. I was putting on the borders of my row by row quilt. I am really excited to show you this. I am totally in love with it. It is beautiful. I struggled with the last row on it, but I'm excited to show it to you. So I've got that to show. I also want to show you a block today. I found this block in a book and I think it's very interesting, and it's an older block and I haven't seen anybody do it on YouTube, or at least I haven't looked for it. So I thought maybe that would be a great thing to share. And I do have some upcoming events that I want to share with you, as well as talk a little bit more about the Peacemakers Quilt Show that's coming up in April. I'm excited about that. So all right, I'm gonna get this coffee brewed and we'll get started. Hello, let me properly introduce myself. I am Marnay, as most of you know, and I am here to show you my finished row by row quilt top. I put the borders on last night. I am really excited about this quilt, and I thought maybe I would talk about it a little bit because I know some of you out there have asked me. Maybe you haven't seen my last video when I started the row by row. This is a monthly class that I've been doing, and I have books, and it's really just creativity at its best, at least my creativity at its best. This quilt top was made completely from scraps, except the border. I did buy fabrics for the border, but all of this fabric, including the backgrounds in all of these, are from my scrap bin. So if you have piles of scraps and you're wondering what to do with them, this is a great and really fun project to do, and you can really let your creativity out and use up all the colors. The colors just go. So I guess I can start at the top here. This was in the row by row book, and I did a little row of houses. And although when I first did this, I think in the last video, I just had the plain little houses, and they were really bugging me, and I really needed to spice them up a little bit. So I know a couple of them, I had the little dog here that looked like my dog Kyler, and the Millie dog that I put in there, but I also ended up adding some cats, a flagpole. I'm like, every neighborhood needs a flagpole, you know, we're America. So I put that in there, and then I found a little piece of scrap with this little fairy girl on it, and it wasn't really big enough to do anything with. And this is the thing when I find little picture blocks or things that just really, you know, I didn't know what to put in it. I put some heat and bond on her, and I cut her out, and I appliqued her onto the houses, and she looks like she's watering little plants, you know. Just them little I Spy things that you can look for the details in quilts. I also had some crow fabric. This was one of my fire fabrics that was rescued, and it was kind of scorched up, but it had all these little crows on it, and it had little pieces, and I could have cut it up for blocks, but I did take one of the crows and I heat and bonded him, and I sewed him on the roof of the house there. And also I added some kitties on this one, like there's 3 of them. That was some cat fabric, and I just fussy cut them out and stuck them in the doorways. Also, this little flower up here on the top was part of the fairy fabric that I fussy cut out and put on the middle of the roof of the house here. And I also added a couple chimneys on the houses because I thought they just needed some chimneys. So that was my first row. I didn't think about the colors I used for those houses. I just pulled out colors and just put it together. And then you find these little things, you know, with pictures and things that you can fussy cut out and just really make it imaginative. So this second row here, this was a scrap that I'd gotten, I think it was at a Goodwill store. I bought a bag of fabric, and I'm a fabric scrap junkie. Oh my God, it's addicting. But this was in it, and I didn't quite know what to do with it. Let me pick off some of my threads. But it was long, and I just thought it was so cute with these little cars and these little foxes and all these little cars driving and little kids in the back. And I thought that needs to go on here. And the little colorful trees in the background, but it wasn't quite long enough, so I just threw some ends on it. This is a scrap quilt, you know, and it's just, there's nothing perfect, you know. except that it lays flat because I was worried it would lay flat with all this piecing and stuff, but it lays really nice. So I put that in under the houses, and I think the last time I showed this, they might have been in different order because they weren't sewn together and I didn't know how I wanted it in order, but this is how I came up with it. So I put the houses on top. These Flying Geese was in a Lori Holt book, and it was a block, but I ended up taking the block and just making one long row. And I think these were 2.5 by 3.5, and then you put like a 2.5 background. You sewed it on each corner here, and I just put them together. So these are just all wonderful colors, and I tried to coordinate them in so they kind of, you know, flowed, I guess. I did a little bit of tweaking on those, but randomly I don't really much think about it. So the next row is the clothesline, and this was in the Moda row by row book, and I wanted to do this for years, and I finally got it done. So the clothes, their patterns are in the book. So you trace them out onto Heat and Bond Light, and then you rough cut them out and you adhere them to whatever fabric colors you want, and then you cut them out. And then you heat them with an iron to the background of your fabric, and then you stitch them all down around. So some of them are layered, like the dress. The dress had a separate ruffle on it, and then you have the t-shirt, the little bloomers, the socks. I did make some additions to the socks by putting the little red toes and the red heels on them, just because I thought they would make them more interesting. So you really kind of have to think about how interesting you want things to look. This dress, there was 2 dresses, and so I did them in different colors with the different bands on the bottom. And the jeans, these jeans I had to jazz up. I had stitched them all the way, stitched them down, but I also made stitch lines for the pocket, the waistbands, the belt loop, and the zip. And also I had added little pieces of brown for clothespins. I didn't overthink that. I just made tiny little rectangles and put them on there for clothespins and stitched them down. And the clothesline is just some rickrack, not perfect, but you know, that's the fun part of making something like this, is it doesn't have to be technically perfect. You know, the stitching, you know, the things you put together, it just looks whimsical. And this is gonna be my new favorite quilt. But anyway, the next row, this was in the row by row Moda book as well, with the dogs. I added the 3rd dog in here. They were supposed to be a pinwheel here, but you know, I can't do things by the rules. I have to modify because that's just who I am. So I made these dogs reminiscent to my 3 dogs, Quincy, Derby, and Tilly, who had passed in 2023 and 2024. And of course, the little pinwheels that kind of bounce into this little quilt. I had made these, I had a charm pack that was all dog themed, so I used those for the dogs in this. This I love, and I added on the hearts and embroidered their names in the hearts because I don't ever want to forget my beloved little puppies. I love them dearly, and this is my contribution to them, to their memory. So next row is the rabbits. These rabbits were also in the row by row Moda book. They were all individually pieced. The ears, the legs, and the body were all cut separately. So when you heat and bond them on, you position the legs, you know, where you want them, and then you iron them down, and then you stitch them down. Same way with the butterflies, they were in there, and I just took some scrap fabric and made the butterflies and stitched them down. I stitched the rabbits in black because I like stitching black, and I went over it a couple of times because I feel like it's drawed. I don't know, I like that look. So that's up to you, whether you want to use matching fabric or you want to use, you know, something black that kind of stands out. And it makes my pattern stand out. So there's a thread I need to cut. Threads drive me crazy if you haven't noticed. And I also put a 4-patch underneath them, and the 4-patch I matched the brown fabric that I had. This was a leftover from a quilt that I had done for my neighbor. It was the backing, and it was brown, and I loved it. So I made my rabbits out of that, and then I took colors of my butterflies and just took random colors that matched the butterflies to put in with the brown fabric to make the patchwork in this. I really like this because it makes this flow together. And these little green blocks in the dogs, this was in the pattern as well, so I just, you know, that was a border that was supposed to be a part of this. So I tried to put 1.5-inch borders in between everything because I want that separation. I didn't want it all to run together, so it gives it a little bit of separation with your rows. the spool row. This is the row I struggled with because this was my last row and I wanted to have the flower jars on the bottom. So my original idea was out of the Patchwork Picnic book, and they had these little bees. And I was gonna put 4 of these little bees in there, but these were tiny little buggers. And I'm telling you, I'm not the most perfect sewer, you know, I'm my own worst critic. But some of them, I just thought they were a little wonky, and when I put them on there, they just didn't feel like they fit for me. So I've got like 4 or 5 of these that I've made. The first one was a practice. The first one I made was the wings were flannel, but the flannel was very thick, and it was for tiny pieces. It doesn't lay very well, and I do like to mix and match fabrics, but I will probably turn those into a table runner. So I dug into my Lori Holt books, which I have all of her books, and I love the blocks in there. They're simple to make, they're easy, they're like puzzles, so if you can measure and cut, you can do those. They are really, really fun to do. So I ended up with the spools, and I love them because I had some brown fabric, and I had enough to make the spools, and then I just cut 1.5 inch little blocks out of random colors to make the thread in the spools. I love it. So when I put the first one up there, I knew right away that's what I wanted. So I made 8 spool blocks and sewed them together and put that in there, and then I put the space in between to separate from my flowers. The flower jars, they are from the Lori Holt book too. I think they're either Vintage Farm, I think they're Vintage Farm Girl or Vintage Farm Girl 2, but somebody's borrowed my Vintage Farm Girl 2 book, so I think they're out of Vintage Farm Girl, I'm not sure, but if you have the books, you can find them. These were the 6-inch blocks with the jars, and the flowers, they were separately, and then I sewed the flowers to the jar because there are 2 different blocks in the book, but she has representation of the flowers on the jar in the book. So I took that representation and made the flower jars. I really like it, and I felt like it gives weight to the bottom of the quilt. I don't know, it's just, they fit nicely there. So these stars over here, these were kind of my idea put together. I've always done the crisscrossy stars, and I know I have an old video on how to do crisscrossy stars. I love to make stars, and I love stars in my quilt. So I took random scrap fabrics, and then I chose a matching fabric to make the secondary, or the back star points, because there are 2 star points, and they crisscross over top of each other, so that they're kind of layered. So I put the background ones on first, so that they're kind of shadowed in the back, and then the matching points that go with the center of the block are on top. And then some 4 patches. And these 4 patches were 1.5 inch squares, just sewed together with another color, and I think I had a whole bunch of these. Actually, I had a box of them that was in a box of stuff that was given to me, and they were a bunch of 1.5 inch squares. So I took a lot of them and matched up 2 sets, and just matched them with, you know, some random colors that fit for the opposite color. And then I just added them in with my stars for the corners here. And then I just put in some colored scrap in between to make it fit the length of my quilt. So I really put some thought process into this, but not so much really for like colors and, you know, and the scraps. I mean, it's just, it doesn't require very much fabric. Even the background fabric, you know, I keep all the lights separated. So when I do my scrap bins, I have like background colors which are really light, or something that wouldn't, you know, background colors. And then I have all of my colors sorted: blacks and browns, blues and purples, reds and pinks, oranges and yellows, and they're all in individual boxes. So I have a really good time picking out a lot of, you know, scraps and just using it up. Or if you find some pictures, you know, I like to put little details, like the flowers in the clothesline here. I think my iron had leaked some oil or something. I don't know, something must have come out of it because it had a dirt spot on there, and I took some soap and I couldn't get it off, and I thought, you know what? Just put an applique on it. So that's what I did. I found this flower, just the flower part here, and I cut it out, and then I just made a long stem with some green, you know, and just cut a long rectangle, and then just stitched it down with, you know, of course, my heat and bond. And then these little 2 flowers were left over from the same in here, so I just cut them out and just kind of put them along the border so it looks like they're just peeking over, you know, from the next row. So just a really interesting. So the border, I went to my local So What Shop in Addison. They are a fabric store, and you can find them online as well. I know I talk about Erin's shop a lot, but I have a couple shops that I really like to shop, and Erin's is usually my go-to place. But my local So What shop in Addison, New York has a great little shop, and you can look them up online. It's the So What shop. And it's in Addison, New York. If you Google it, you can find it. It's a great little shop. It's a mom and daughter that operate that little store, and it is wonderful. And when I need something and it's close to my home, I can go there and I can find great fabrics. So that's what I did the other day. So I bought this blue grunge, and it has like a light purple flavor in it, along with a light blue. So I chose a plain white blue to kind of is my inner border to kind of help frame out everything, because there is so much busyness in here. I didn't want anything with a print on it for my border. I just really wanted to frame it up. And there's not a lot of blue on my quilt. There is a lot of color, but I thought blue would make it really pop. And Jim and I had discussed maybe we'd do a black border at first, but I thought maybe it would be too harsh for it. So as I got looking, and I'm like a kid in a candy store when I go into a fabric store, because it's like, oh my gosh, you know. So I almost picked like some houndstooth and some other things, and I'm like, no, I don't want to do any pattern. It's got to be simple, because I didn't want the pattern to be too busy with my busy row by row quilt. So I chose the grunge and just a plain light blue border, and this works. I am in love with this quilt. When this quilt gets done, it is going at the foot of my bed, because before we lost our house, I had my first quilt that I ever made for myself was a scrappy quilt, and it was not perfect. And I had a little cheap embroidery machine back then when I made it, and I actually had Jim do it. I embroidered perfectly imperfect on that quilt, because it was not perfect. I knew nothing about binding. I quilted it on my home sewing machine, but I stitched in the ditch, you know, and made all the blocks. It was scrappy. It was all 2.5 by 3.5 inch blocks. And it was colorful, and it was my favorite. And when I wanted a quilt to comfort me, or when I was cold at night, I pulled that blanket on it. I covered my dogs with it. I mean, we just loved that blanket. So this, to me, is a replacement for the one that I lost, because it reminds me so much of it, because it's scrappy and it's colorful. And I hope you all love it as well. So I am ready to get this on the quilter. And oh my God, I gotta tell you about the back. The back. Hang on, let me grab that real quick. Enjoy the view for a minute. So I gotta tell you about the back. This back, when I saw it, I was like, this is it. And I can't tell you who the name is, or maybe I can. It's on the back here. So it is 108. It's 108 wide back, and it is called New Vintage. It's by Wyndham Fabrics. It's called New Vintage by Laura Hine, and that's H-E-I-N-E. So this is a cute back. It's kind of like a scrappy collage, and I have to show you, because when I first saw this, what really caught my eye was a goat. And I'm going to put this up close so you can see it. And hopefully, oops, I'm getting in my thread way because my Juki's there, but if you can see that little goat, he is right here. Let me put that up there. So right by my finger. I'm not trying to give you a finger. But it's like, oh my God, it's just like, you know when something speaks to you? You know, that speaks to me, because I'm like, oh my gosh, I have goats. So I have Gilbert and Gracie. So it just made me think of them, and the colorfulness and the scrappiness of this is gonna be a great quilt back. So I cannot wait to get this on the quilter. So super, super fun. So what else do I want to tell you about? Well, I've talked about the peacemakers before, and as a lot of you know, I am going to be in the quilt show for the Elmira Peacemakers, and that show is going to be in April, the end of April. It is the Elmira Peacemakers of Elmira, New York, and they are putting on a quilt show at the Arnott Mall in Big Flats, New York. So if you are local or close and you want to check out a really nice quilt show, that will be a great one. I have not ever entered the Peacemakers Quilt Show, but I have been to many of their quilt shows, and they have some beautiful quilts there by some really talented quilters, and I feel honored to be putting some of my things in there. I'm not as good as some of these people out there, you know, but I enjoy making my quilts, and I love them, and I think they're beautiful, and I know some other people out there will probably appreciate them too. So that is coming up, like I said, the end of April. I have the card somewhere, but I'll get the date. So I have 7 quilts. 7. I can't believe that I have 7 quilts to put in that show. But I have got my baking quilt, I have my crows in the corn, I have my strawberry quilt. Those are all finished. I do need to put labels on my quilt because that's a requirement, and I also have to put sleeves on my quilt. I am not a fan of putting sleeves on there, but I can put some temporary ones on, and maybe either pin them on or baste them on along the binding. Maybe I'm thinking about basting. I'm not really sure yet. So I have a lot to do. So yeah, that's gonna be my next thing. So, and what else do I have to? I got my feed sack quilt. I have to finish binding that. I messed up on the binding a little bit. I had to take some stitches out a couple weeks ago, and then I haven't finished it yet. I need to get that finished up and binded. So I have I'm calling it the sea glass quilt, where Jim and I had done the husband and wife quilts. He hasn't, I don't know if he'll get his quilted or not. He hates his quilt, but I love mine, and I'm calling it sea glass. And I have a batik back to put on it because the blocks were all done in batik, and it has a white border. And I ordered some white batting for that as well. I wanted pure white batting because the borders on the front are white, and they're kind of, I don't know, you can almost see through them kind of. And I'm like, it's got to have white batting. And it's also got to have a batik back because it's got batik blocks. It's beautiful, and I think you've seen it. If you haven't seen it, you can check back on some of my videos and see that it was the husband and wife quilt that Jim and I were building. We had some good quality time building some quilts together, you know, and just hanging out together, because sometimes we really need that, because we both are very busy. I know Jim gets very busy with his job, and he's juggling things here to keep our quilter going, and we're fully operating now. We've got quilts coming in, and quilts going out. And Jim is also signed up to be a local firefighter for our local fire department. So I was like, are you biting off more than you can chew? I don't know. So yeah, so there's a lot going on. So another thing I want to tell you about is we are a Hoover's Bernina classroom here from Hoover's Bernina in Mifflinburg, PA, and I've told you about that in the last video or two. We do have a Bernina classroom in here. I have been doing some classes, usually 2 a month. They have been pretty successful. I have new people coming in all the time, and we have a lot of fun in here. So if you are local and you want to join one of our classes, and I know a lot of people out there, you know, are beginners, or they say, I'm not that good. Hey, none of us are. Everybody starts somewhere, you know, and I can't stress that enough. When, you know, when I first started, I knew nothing about nothing. So everybody starts somewhere. So don't ever think that, you know, you can't quilt or you're not good enough, because you can be good enough. Every quilter has a beginning to start somewhere, and there is no perfection, you know. I mean, I think perfection might come down the road as you keep going and you do more, you get better. So, I mean, I don't know. And you should just enjoy the journey of it. Enjoy sewing. I am very passionate about things that I make and what I do, you know, and that's why I am sharing it with all of you, you know, and I love the great comments that you all give me and tell me I'm a great teacher, because sometimes I don't think I am a great teacher. I just don't know. So, I mean, but it makes me feel good that I am doing something right and hopefully passing my gift on to you. So I'm going to grab that paper for Bernina's Hoover's. So, this is the quilt show, and I will get some links. I'll have Jim put some links in here. This is quilt show at the Arnott Mall Event Center. It's Chambers Road in Horseheads, New York, not Big Flats. So this is our Quilts in Bloom card, and the date is April 25th to the 27th from 10 to 4, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And the admission is $6 each day. So this is if you love to look at other people's quilts, this is a great show to attend, which I will keep you in tune with all of that as well. And Hoover's is having a spring fling, and this is April 9th through the 11th. And I really wanted to put this out there because this is going to be a great event. I wanted to go to this last year. It's called Spring Fling, and you need to register for this exciting 3-day event today. April 9th through the 11th, 2025, $249. It's at the Rusty Nail, and it's on 5 North 8th Street, Suite 1, Mifflinburg, PA. And it says, join us for 3 fun-filled days of shopping, giveaways, door prizes, and an opportunity to learn from famous educators like Amanda Murphy and Connie Fanders and more. So entry to win a Bernina, 5 classrooms with 5 leading educators, all materials included, morning snack and boxed lunch all 3 days, spring fling goodie bag, vendor mall, and daily door prizes. I will put a phone number up in the link in the description box. A link in the description. I can't talk. A link in the description box. So there's a number to call and there is an email. I'll put all this information on the description box. I do believe that these are limited for people. I don't know how many people, but yeah, so I will put a link in the description box for that. That's very interesting. I'm going to be there all 3 days along with Erin Sheets, and a couple of my neighbor girls are going for all 3 days. We've all signed up for this. So it would be a great way to meet some of you if you decide you want to do something like that. So I will keep you posted on that as well. And here comes my love.
What's cracking?
I'm talking about my quilt, and I'm talking about the Elmira Peacemakers Quilt Show, and I just told them about Spring Fling. If you can put up some links in the description box so they can check that out and decide if maybe that might be something they want to go. I wanted to go last year to this event, but we were in the middle of getting a house moved into our home site here, so I didn't get to go to this last year, but I am definitely going this year. So I'm hoping to maybe see some of you there if you decide to go.
I'm gonna go down for probably a day, but I got too much going on to go for 3 days straight.
Didn't I tell you he's a busy man? Wanting to join the fire department, working, long arming, fixing things for people. Holy cow, you're a busy man, Jim.
Yeah, but I got a good wife that supports me too.
I don't know. Sometimes I'm grumpy about it.
Yeah, sometimes you can be a little grumpy. She gets a little frisky
Yes,
sometimes.
me, I know. I'm like, we're biting off too much more.
So, did you talk about your quilt then?
Yes, I told them all the details on it. I love it, and I can't wait to get it quilted. I showed them the back. I'm so excited for that. Oh my God, it's gonna be beautiful. It's gonna be beautiful. The simple things make me very happy. It's the simple things.
That's why she likes me. I'm simple.
Well, I feel like I'm simple. I'm not maybe I'm complicated in my own way, but yeah, I'm happy with the little things. Like
cool.
Like when you come home and I'm like, Jim's home. I like you home, but he's always running. So
yeah, I'm always running.
Yeah. So anything else we can talk? So yes, I said that we are quilting.
Did you tell them that we're Bernina Classroom now?
Yes, I told them we're Bernina Classroom, which brought me to the Hoover's Bernina Spring Fling 3-day event. We are running quilts now, so if any of you decide you need to quilted, let us know. CountryFarmHouseQuilting@gmail.com. You can email us and we can get you set up to how you can mail your quilt to us, and we will return it to you postage free. We would be honored to do a quilt for you if you would like. I know somebody out there told me that she had a Tilda quilt and she hadn't gotten it quilted yet. That's something else I wanted to talk about. And I said I would quilt it for her if she wanted to mail it here. But I have been asked so many times, am I going to do another quilt, a Tilda quilt? Yes, I am. But since I've lost my chicken hen house Tilda quilt, I want to do another one. But I'm like, I've already done a video on that.
I think she should do another Tilda quilt, but do something different.
Well, I really want to do the Windy Days, and now they've got all these new patterns. So if you got any suggestions what you would like to see in a new Tilda quilt, and I know a couple years ago I did the challenge. Oh, that was right before a house burn. I said I gave them 3 choices of which one to do, and that was a tractor quilt.
Because the Tilda was what you were working on when the house
The tractor
burned.
quilt. Yeah, I had the first row
That's
done.
right.
And then poof, everything was gone. So I had to start all over. And that was a roller coaster emotional ride for me. But that quilt has a lot of meaning after all of that. But I want to do another one. And I really want another hen house. But I don't want to put that out there for some... If I did another hen house, I would do it all differently. Like with colored chickens, maybe different wood tones for the barns. I still like the prairie dresses and the different colors of hair. No blue, gray, green, or not blue, green, pink, whatever. Natural colored hair. I'm a naturalist. So, yeah. But I do want to do another Tilda. So, and Erin was just doing a Windy Days Tilda quilt at her shop, and she was custom quilting it. And I was looking at that, and I'm like, I want one of those. Oh, yeah, we can talk about this too.
So one of our subscribers sent us a quilt and a little note. Well, it wasn't a quilt. It was some partially finished blocks and
yes. And I don't remember what your name was because all I have is the note. I mean, because everything was a shuffle.
I'll read this to you. It says, Marnay, this is a quilt. A few of the things I sent were given to me by a gentleman, Mr. Allen, who walked into Joanne Fabric while I was looking at patterns and books. He asked if I sewed and craft. His wife passed away. He did not want to throw out her precious things. She never finished. Maybe you can finish it and give it to somebody who needs it. So
I think that's a great idea.
So I've been working on this quilt top to try to get it finished up. And
My Jim Jim.
here it is.
I love it.
Some of the blocks do have just a little bit of fullness in it, but I think it'll quilt out just fine.
Our motto was always, every quilt deserves to be quilted.
So
this quilt deserved to be finished and quilted and passed on to somebody that will love it and use it.
yeah, and it was just a basic log cabin. I think she had about half the log cabins finished, and I had to finish up some of them. And if you know of an organization or somebody
that maybe was in North Carolina during Hurricane Helene.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody down there, but if you know anybody, I mean, because when I think about those people that lost their homes and they don't have homes and they're struggling right now, and I know somebody else out there in YouTube was collecting quilts to send there. I think it was, I can't remember her name.
Well, but anyway, if you know of an organization or somebody that could use a quilt, or somebody that really deserves a quilt, email us, and once we get this quilted and finished up, we'll send it to them.
I would love to give it to somebody that really needs it, and I think it's beautiful. And we're already talking about putting a nice, beautiful, attractive design on it.
We kind of talked about maybe doing a little custom quilting on it. I mean, I don't know. We'll see what.
Well, because the fabrics are older and a lot of people don't. But I think it reminds me of like grandma or cottagey, you know. And I thought this could be a really beautiful quilt.
The blues, we've got some little flower patterns in there, and then on the pinkish color,
it's very old-fashioned, but I think it would be
there's
very comforting.
A lot of. It does. It reminds me of a grandma's quilt. I think that's the best way to put it.
Like grandma in a cottage or something. I don't know. I love it. I love it. But I think somebody deserving needs to have this quilt, and I want to make it extra special for somebody deserving. So if you know somebody that's deserving out there that needs a quilt, I would love to send it to them. Because
I didn't mean to come out and barge into your video.
No, that's fine. Everybody loves to see my Jim Jim.
I'm the Jim Jim.
Yeah, so you haven't been around. You haven't popped in quite some time.
I've kind of been busy.
I know. Me too. Me too. I'm making time today.
Do you guys want to see the Berninas?
Oh yeah. You can explain some of the Berninas. And also, I didn't tell you about the Peacemakers show. We are going to be a vendor there, and we're going to take the Berninas there and demonstrate them. Or Mr. Jim Jim here is going to demonstrate them.
We're going to be at the Corning Quilt Show.
Not Corning Quilt Show. Elmira Peacemakers
Quilt Show. And we're going to be set up. We'll have some of our quilting there that we've done to kind of display. And then we're going to have the Berninas there. So, yeah, if you're in the area, come on down. Did you give them the address and stuff?
Yep. I want you to put the links to the Peacemaker. That's called Quilts in Bloom. And it's
at the Arnett Mall
Event Center. Yep. Chambers
Horseheads,
Road.
Corning area.
Horseheads, New York. Yep. I'm sure you could probably Google this too, but we'll put the links in the description box because this would be a really fun thing to do. So if you're in the area,
that usually is a big quilt show. I mean,
that's what I told them. I've been to their shows
last
before.
year. They had a couple hundred quilts, didn't they?
I don't think they had a quilt show.
Not last year, but the year before, because it's every other.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
The
a
last
pretty
one they
neat
had
show.
at the Soaring Museum.
Yeah.
And now they're having it at the Arnott Mall.
So.
Which is a big area, and it has easy access to get in. If people are handicapped or have wheelchairs, they can get in, because they used to have it at the Soaring Museum, and that was a lot of stairs and things, and it wasn't really, I would say, user-friendly for people that, you know, can't get around or can't climb stairs. That's hard, you know. So this is all one level. It's in a big, it's in an old Macy's store, but it's really huge in there. So they're gonna have vendors set up in there, and we're gonna be set up as, you know, a demonstrator, and there will be so many beautiful quilts, you know,
Yeah, so
by so many talented people.
come down to the quilt show, say hi. We'll be there through the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Go to Hoover's
we'll
Spring
be there.
Fling. She'll be there the whole time. I'm gonna pop in and out.
I'm excited. I'm excited. I've never been to Hoover's Spring Fling. I've heard so much about it through the past few years, but I've never been to one. So I was like, this year I'm going. So last year it was a little complicated because we had a house and it was so much to go on, and I was like, I couldn't get away. So yeah. And Tilly will be there with me. I even got him a little doggy stroller. I can't believe I got a doggy stroller, but Tilly is 20 pounds or better, so I needed something that, you know, when I go somewhere, I can't carry him, and I can't walk him through crowds of people, you know, worried about somebody stepping on him or something. So we got him a little buggy, so we're gonna push him around in, and it'll be cool.
Oh, did you tell him about Tilly's quilt?
Oh, Tilly's little, I don't know, if you've been watching my videos, when I did make Tilly a little quilt, Jim quilted it, and it has little dog bones on it.
I'll bring it over here
and it is super cute.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, that little bed, if you've all seen the little bed that I made for him, and of course I made him the quilt top and the pillow, I finally brought it out here to the studio, and he sleeps in it.
This is Tilly's little bed.
You know, I had this in the house for months after I'd made the quilt top, and he never laid in it in the house. So I bring it out here, we quilted up the little quilt top, and of course I have his little pillow on there, and he sleeps on it just like a little person. Puts his little head on the pillow. It's so sweet. I have to see if we got any pictures of him laying on there. Maybe I can put them in at the
On
end.
a side note, so far Tilly he's got a Jeep quilt that we keep in the Jeep for him. He's got a quilt on his bed. You know who doesn't have a quilt yet?
I know. I need to get on that. What am I going to make for my next quilt? That's what I'm struggling right now with, because this one's all ready for the quilter. And now I'm like, what do I want to make? I thought about making the cattle call. This one would be fun, but then I'm like, there's so many other ones I want to make. I just don't know what I want to make. So if you got any
this would be really
suggestions.
cute if you did like flannel or something like that for the cow.
Yeah, I want to do flannel.
Put something with some texture on it.
Oh, and I just quilted one for one of my fellow guild members. She had the Corey Yoder sheep pattern, and I'm like, oh, her quilt was so cute. She did white sheep with the black faces, and then she did one black sheep with a white face. I'm like, I want to make those, and I just haven't found the pattern, so she's going to lend me hers. And I was talking to Angie up at the So What shop, and she said she had just made one, and she just quilted hers, and she did the faces in flannel. And I'm like, oh my God, I love that idea. I was like, I want to do that.
Well, that was what I liked about your truck quilt was
because I like to mix textures. Yes,
when I did, what was it, pleather for the hat?
Yeah.
And then you did.
I did chenille for the bee.
Yeah.
The truck was velvet, red velvet. I am going to do another truck quilt. It's in the Lori Holt Vintage Farm Girl 2 book, I think. I made that quilt. I put it in the Corning Quilt Show back in 2021 or 2020. 2021, I think, because they didn't do anything during COVID. But anyway,
no, it was before that.
Was it before COVID?
No, it was after COVID because
okay.
we moved in during COVID.
Yeah,
so
that's right. That's right. Yeah, 2021. But anyway, for being an amateur as I am, they let the people that come in and looked at the quilts vote on their favorite. Mine came in second. And I'm telling you, I think I've said it before, I jumped around and hopped up and down. I'm like, I'm good enough, you know? I'm like, because there are so many talented people out there, I feel like I'm just an amateur, you know? But that truck quilt was beautiful, and I never used it, and I'm upset with myself because now I've lost it, and I want to make another one, and I thought, I'm going to love and use all of my quilts. I'm not going to put them in a box and store them. I'm going to swap them out, you know, periodically.
giant trunk in the living room that was just chocked
It was
full
full.
of
It was
quilts.
full of my quilts,
And
and
the only time they saw the day of light is if we were going someplace for like a show and share, or if you were a guest speaker.
although
at
I can tell
something.
you a good story about those quilts. About maybe not even a month before our fire, my niece Lexi was at the house, and she was watching YouTube, and she was watching these kids making blanket forts, and she wanted to make a blanket fort. So you know what I did? I dragged all of my dining room chairs into the living room and pulled out all of my quilts, and we made a blanket fort.
I think I got a picture.
And we laid under those blankets, and I had
They had a
Tinker under
they
there
had a
with
separate room for each dog.
Tinker was in there, Millie was in there, me and Lexi, and we're watching TV, and we put pillows in there, and it was the funnest thing, and it made me feel like a little kid again. And that is a memory that I hold near and dear to my heart. I almost cried, my God. You know, thinking I'm so glad I did that, you know, and we played with all them quilts, and we draped them over all the chairs, you know, we had the dogs under there with us, and we were giggling like two little girls. It was so fun, and it was just such a memory, you know, that, you know, you got to hold on to those.
All right.
Yeah,
all
I
right.
know. Don't get me going.
Should get them waterworks going.
Yes, I'm still.
Speaking of water, do we have coffee?
Yes, it's me.
Yeah, girl.
Hey, show them the Berninas real quick before
All right,
we get
we'll show
too
you
long.
the Berninas.
You can take the camera around there, and I'll get you a coffee.
All right, hello. So this is how we've got stuff set up right now. We've got like a 10-foot-ish table. We got all the machines on there, and this works, but it's kind of crowded. So we're actually looking at we've got a couple of the Singer treadle bases, and we want to kind of make individual stands for each machine, put them on caster so we can kind of move them around. This one right here, this is a B475 Quilter edition. This is actually Marne's personal Bernina. We got this shortly after the fire. Erin and Hoover's made sure that she had a sewing machine to use. And then over here, this is the B570 Quilter edition, and all of the feet that come with it. This is a really nice machine, kind of a top end. It's not the biggest machine Bernina makes, but it's got a lot of really nice features to it. And if you are interested in a Bernina, you can come down here, sew on these, figure out if you like them or not. And if you do, we can actually work with Hoovers to get you a Bernina machine in the local area. This little guy here, this is the B38, a super popular entry level. This is a Burnett. It's got a lot of nice features. You got thread cutter, needle up and down. It's got, I think, 10 or so different stitches. So basically all of the basic stitches that you need for quilting. Super affordable little machine. The Burnett's, any of the Burnett's that we've got here, if you're interested in one, get a hold of us, because the Burnett's, we can actually, through Hoover's, ship them directly to you. Where the Berninas, you have to go to a Bernina dealer in order to get one. So if you're in the local area, we can work with Hoover's with you and get you a machine. If you're not in the local area, you'll have to find your local Bernina dealer. So the B38 is a nice little entry-level machine. This one right here is the B08 Burnett. This I'm actually kind of excited about. So for those of you that have been watching the channel, you'll know that Marne's Juki was a machine that I wanted her to get for a long time, because it's a straight stitch only machine, and the vast majority of quilting is straight stitch. It's kind of a commercial-ish machine. Well, this B08 is basically the exact same thing as the Juki is. It is a straight stitch only mechanical machine, and it lays down some beautiful stitches. So you can see you've got a, let me zoom in here a little bit. We've got a thread cutter on it, your reversing bar, needle up and down, speed control. Now this right here kind of looks complicated. It is a little bit more of a difficult thread path than a residential machine is, but the reason for that is so that you can really fine tune your tension and get some really nice stitches out of it. And this machine runs at, I believe it's 1,800 or 2,000 stitches a minute. So I mean, you can really put out some quilts pretty quick with it. It does have a big table. This machine I'm really excited about. Like it's everything that I wanted in the Juki, except it's in the Burnett. We've also got a B79. This is the Yaha Hand Edition. It's an embroidery machine or a sewing machine. So this has a lot of the same features as the Bernina does. It's one model kind of lower than that Bernina that I was showing you earlier. And the nice thing about a lot of these too, the foot pedals are now dual control. So if you step up here, it sews. And if you step on the heel portion, it'll do something else, whatever you want it to do. So a lot of times we set those up so that when you hit the heel, it will cut your threads and lift your foot. So that way when you're done sewing, you just tap the heel and your machine will cut the thread, lift the foot up, and then you can go right into your next piece. This is the Bernina B77, which is very similar to the 590. In fact, if you look at the screens on the 590 and the 77, I'm pretty sure they're actually the same software running both of the machines. So the Bernina software is, if it's not the same software, it is very, very close. This has a ton of features, just like the two Berninas that we've got. This is gonna be kind of a, if you're looking for a machine that's got a lot of features, but without the massive price tag that the Berninas have, this would be a good machine for you. So those are the machines that we've got available. And then of course, Marne's got her Juki, but that's kind of, you know, her Juki. So those are the machines we've got here. And again, you are welcome to come down and sew on these. They're here to be used. So come on down, jump on a machine, make a project. We've got classes almost every weekend.
I told them about the classes
that
we do. And
cool.
Yep. If the light's on, come on in.
Yep.
It's usually on out here, and I'm usually out here till kind of late anymore.
Don't be afraid to pop in. Like it's if we're out here, and you're driving by, pop in and say hi.
Yep.
So, all right, cool. Anything else you want to talk about?
That about concludes it for today. For things, I'm ready to get this quilt on the quilter. I am finishing up some unfinished projects.
Oh yeah, you do have a back for that. Okay.
Yes, yeah, I showed them the back with the goat on it. I love it, I love it, I love it. So yeah, I've got the smoke quilt here. I've got to finish binding that quilt. I told them I got to make quilts, labels and hangers.
Did they see this one?
I think I've showed it to them before. This was quilted by Jim.
So yeah, we did a little bit of kind of custom quilting on this.
Yeah, I think
so the borders have a border pattern in them, and then if I remember rightly, yeah, so the green border has one pattern, this has another pattern, and then inside of the quilt we put another pattern.
So this is when we first got the knolting.
Yeah, this was just playing
we needed
around
to play with it because, you know, when you got a new machine, you got to learn it, tweak it. Well, we've had to tweak this one with a few little features that you had.
Yeah, so the knolting that we bought was actually a used knolting. And anytime you buy something used, I mean, you have no idea what the history on it. It does appear that it was used fairly lightly, so I don't think it was ever used in production. But the bobbin case had a little bit of an issue in it. It wasn't holding constant tension for us. So we got a hold of our knolting dealer, and her name is Joyce Bowers, and I took all of I took the bobbin case, my bobbin winder, toa gauge, all kinds of stuff up to her shop. And we sat down for a couple hours, we figured out what was wrong, got back here with a new bobbin case, put it in the machine, and she is running like a champ.
She is, because when there's tension issues, I don't
it's a nightmare.
I don't like playing with that tension dial, you know, I just want stuff to work, and it is running beautifully. So we just did a couple of quilts, and they're perfect, you know. And
there's a possibility, I don't want to throw anything out there, we'll throw it out there. There's a possibility that we may become a knolting dealer. So if you're interested in the long arm, drop a comment down below. I'm kind of curious to see how many people would be interested in a long arm
knolting.
Yeah,
actually, I can say this about the knolting. It is easier to operate than our gamma was. It's very simple once you learn the steps. But being me, that I was so programmed for gamma, and then you have to convert to something else, because I struggled with that. Erin has Bernina machines, and she tried to she tried to show me how to run them, and I just could not grasp the concept because I was still in the gamble mode. Jim here is a very good teacher.
Well, Bernina, I think they make a really nice long arm, but it is incredibly complicated.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot to it, where the gamble and the knolting, those machines are just mechanical. There's not a ton of electronics like there is in the Berninas or some of the Innovas. It's kind of just a workhorse, and that's what we like. Like, I need my long arm machine to run. Because, I mean, we do any place from 1 to 2 quilts a day. And so having that downtime, I just don't want it. I like mechanical machines because they just run. That's why I like the Juki. That's why I like that B08 over there. I like mechanical machines that just work.
Yeah.
You know, the fancy features are nice.
They are, to an extent, until you don't understand it or something goes wrong. And, you know, I like simple, but sometimes I like fancy. So I jumped from this machine to the Juki, but most of my major sewing is on there.
The comical part is when she does sew on the Bernina here. Most of the time it's just a straight stitch, and you know why she changed that machine? Because it's got a different color thread.
Yeah,
so she needs black thread, and she doesn't want to rethread the Juki.
Just white on the Juki, yeah. So that's the strict, because that's got a big spool, and I like that. And I buy the pre-filled winded up bobbins for that too, which is nice because I can just, when it's empty, I oil it, I put another one in, and I oil the
bobbin case.
Bobbin case, yeah. Not oil the whole machine. I only do that every couple of months. They say to do that. Don't over oil them, but their bobbin case, you have to keep that lubricated. So.
All right.
Yeah. So all right, we should probably end this. I know it's getting.
Yeah, we got some folks coming over to do some sewing. So.
It's 10 o'clock, so I'm surprised nobody showed up yet. So
and I gotta get a quilt loaded.
Yeah, so we got things to do. So I will chat at y'all soon. So I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you got some good information here. Talk to you later. Bye.